Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the moderator of this call. Thank you for standing by and welcome to Nucleus Software quarterly earnings conference call for the quarter and year ended on 30th June 2021. For the duration of the presentation, all participants' lines will be in listening only mode. We will have a Q&A session after the presentation. So I would like to now hand over the proceedings to Ms. Swati Ahuja. Thank you, and over to you, Swati.
Thanks, Harpreet. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Swati from Investor Relations team at Nucleus Software. A very warm welcome to all of you for this Nucleus Software earnings conference call for the first quarter ended as on June 30th, 2021. For discussion, we have here from the management team, Mr. Vishnu R. Prasad, our Managing Director, Mr. Parag Bhise, CEO, Mr. Anurag Mantri, CFO and Executive Director, Mr. Tapan Jayaswal, colleague from the finance team, Ms. Prema Rajaraman, Global Head HR, and Mr. Ashish Khanna, Business Consultant, Financial Inclusion. As you all are aware, Nucleus Software does not provide any specific revenue earning guidance. Anything which is said during this call, which may reflect our outlook for the future or which may be construed as a forward-looking statement, must be reviewed in conjunction with the risks that the company faces. An audio and transcript of this call would be shortly available on the investor section of our website, www.nucleussoftware.com. With this, we are now ready to begin with the opening comments on the performance of the company for the quarter ended on June 30th, 2021 from the MD. And post that, we would be available for the Q&A session. With this, I now pass it over to Vishnu, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thanks, Swati, and warm welcome to the investor call for the first quarter ending 30th June 2021. The first quarter this year was one of the toughest for us, as we were barely recovering from the COVID-19 second wave. As we had mentioned in our investor call on 4th of June, we were hit by a ransomware attack that almost crippled us for a couple of weeks during the month of June 21. Thanks to the phenomenal effort by our leaders and our partners, we are fully back on our feet and have emerged wiser and stronger. The other challenge that we as an industry are facing is that of industry-wide attrition due to huge increase in digitization work to the country. To ensure that Nucleites continue to add value to our customers in an uninterrupted manner, we took some major steps. The compensation has been raised substantially. While this has affected our profitability, we are confident we will be able to get back to our standard profitability in not too distant a future. We believe that this is an investment in our future. With those words, I would now like to hand over to our CEO, Parag Bhise. Over to you, Parag.
Thank you very much, Vishnu, for your comments. I echo Vishnu's sentiments. The quarter that has gone by is arguably one of the toughest quarters that I have seen in my 30 plus years of association with the company and the industry for that matter. We were hit by three major problems in quick succession within the same quarter. The last one of them being something that the entire industry is facing, the severe resource demand stroke challenge, the way we look at it. We have responded to all three of these challenges appropriately. And while it is still not sure where the bloodbath caused by the extreme surge in demand of trained technical people will stop, where it will stop, we are obviously closely monitoring the situation and will respond to it as required. While our profits have been impacted due to the rise in personnel cost, with the business opportunities shaping up that are visible to us and already in our hand, we are quite confident that we'll be back on track soon. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Tapan sir? Please highlight the financials.
Hello. Thank you, Parag sir.
Hi.
Okay. Key highlights from financials are: we have a consolidated revenue for the quarter is at rupees 108.4 crores against rupees 124.2 crores quarter on quarter and rupees 128.4 crores year on year. Overall revenue in foreign currency, including India rupees revenue, is $14.8 million for the quarter against $16.9 million quarter on quarter and $17.3 million year on year. Product revenue for the quarter is at rupees 89.9 crores against rupees 105 crores quarter on quarter and rupees 107.1 crore year on year. Revenue from the project and services for the quarter is at rupees 18.5 crores against 19.2 crores quarter on quarter and rupees 21.3 crores year on year. Moving on to the expenses side of it, cost of delivery including cost of product development for the quarter is at 81.2% of revenue against 63.6% of revenue quarter on quarter and 62.6% of revenue year on year. In absolute terms, this is rupees 88.1 crore against 79 crore quarter on quarter and rupees 80.3 crore year on year. Marketing and sales expense for the quarter is 5.7% of revenue against 3.7% of revenue quarter on quarter and 1.6% year on year. In absolute terms, this is rupees 6.2 crores against 4.6 crores quarter on quarter and rupees 2 crore year on year. Moving on to general and administration expenses for the quarter is 11.8% of revenue against 7.3% of revenue quarter on quarter and 6.9% year on year. In absolute terms, this is rupees 12.8 crores against 9.1 crore quarter on quarter and rupees 8.9 crore year on year. EBITDA for the quarter is at rupees 1.4 crore against 31.5 crore quarter on quarter and rupees 37.1 crore year on year. Other income from investment and deposit at 8.8 crore against 6.7 crore quarter on quarter and rupees 10.7 crore year on year. Total other income for the quarter is rupees 10.8 crore against rupees 7.2 crore quarter on quarter and 13 crore year on year. Total taxes are at rupees 3.1 crore against 8.2 crore quarter on quarter and 10.1 crore year on year. Net profit stands at 6 crore for the quarter against 27.4 crore quarter on quarter and rupees 36.3 crore year on year. Other comprehensive income is at negative 3.2 crore for the quarter against negative 1.5 crore quarter on quarter and rupees 2.4 crore year on year. Total comprehensive income, which includes net profit and other comprehensive income, is at rupees 2.8 crore for the quarter against 25.9 crore quarter on quarter and rupees 38.7 crore year on year. EPS for the quarter is at rupees 2.07 as against rupees 9.42 in the previous quarter and rupees 12.51 in June 20 quarter. In terms of foreign currency hedges on June 30th, 2021, we had $5 million of forward contracts at an average rate of 75.14. There is a mark-to-market loss of 3.69 lakhs, which is taken to hedging reserve in the balance sheet. Revenue contribution from the top 5 clients for the quarter is 26% as against 27% in the previous quarter. The order book position stands at 534.9 crores, including 490.4 crores of product business and rupees 44.5 crores of project and services business. In March 31st, 2020, the order book position was rupees 477.9 crores, including 445.9 crores of product business and rupees 32 crores of projects and services business. Total cash and cash equivalent as on 30th June 2021 are rupees 734.3 crores against rupees 692 crores as on 31st March 2021. This includes balance in current accounts of rupees 35.1 crore, various schemes of mutual funds amounting to 528.1 crore, fixed deposits of rupees 29.6 crore, investment in tax-free bonds of rupees 113.2 crores, rupees 28.3 crores in preference shares. With regards to receivables, we are at rupees 69.5 crores against 85.7 crores previous quarter. During the quarter, there is a gross addition of fixed assets of rupees 2.62 crores, consisting primarily of rupees 0.34 crores on plant and machinery, 1.18 crores on software, and rupees 1.10 crores on computers. Now I hand over to Swati.
Thank you, sir. With this, we are now open for a Q&A session. I will now hand it over to Harpreet. Over to you, Harpreet.
Thank you, Swati. With this, we will open the floor for Q&A interaction. So participants, if you have any questions, please press 0 and then 1 on your telephone keypad and wait for your letter. I'll repeat. You need to press 0 and then 1 to ask a question. First question of the day we have from HMC Private Limited. Your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Okay. Am I audible now?
Yes, you're
okay.
audible.
So I have a couple of questions, sir. First is so I'll put together if you want. So sir, are we still seeing difficulties in NBFC sector as you said in the last call? If you see, as of now, the most of the NBFC now stands at the pre-COVID level, and the collection efficiency also is nearly stands at 90%. So we are still facing difficulties. Please could you give some color on it?
Parag, you want to take it?
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Should I respond?
Yeah. Please go
Yeah.
Yes, this is Parag here. Thank you for your question. NBFC front, from business perspective, orders, etc., now we are not seeing any challenges. We are, as I indicated in my initial comments, that the business perspective looks good, including NBFC. To be specific, no, we are not now facing any challenges. We are getting good traction.
Okay. So we are not facing any difficulties as of now from the NBFC.
No, not that I know.
Okay. And the second question, we can see there is a huge jump on employee benefit expense, which stands at 85% as a percentage of sales during the quarter, and the last quarter was 59%. So is it continue for the coming quarter, sir? We are quite actually higher than the peers on the employee expense.
So you're talking about personal expenses, right?
Yeah. I'm talking about the personal expenses, like employee benefit expense.
Okay. So this quarter is exceptional because if you note, our revenues are also down because of the problems that Vishnu sir talked about. We faced 3 problems in succession. COVID, we were impacted severely, then followed by ransomware, because of which for a few weeks we were not operational, and the huge demand, because of which the attrition is at its peak, which is an industry-wide phenomenon, but we are also facing it. So this quarter we were hit by, on one side, the revenue shortage. On the other side, we had to revise our salaries significantly. So there was a dual impact. We don't expect the same in next quarter. At least that is what is the expectation, because as I said, the business is looking good. At least the other 2 problems are behind us, and we should be probably doing much better on the revenue front at least. That's my belief.
Okay, so we'll still maintain 64% on a year basis.
We're not very sure whether as Parag has highlighted, this is Vishnu. As Parag has highlighted, we do hope to recover from obviously this hopefully the worst quarter. We will certainly recover, but how much long will it take for us to get back to the same ratios? We are not in a position to comment right now.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next we have Devesh Mehta from Dolat Capital. Your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Hello. Thank you for taking my question. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Hello?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. So my first question is that even when in the last quarter you had seen some revenue decline, which was due to supply side factors or lower accuracy from the order book. Is it the same case this time? Even if it is the same case, I think the decline in revenue is a bit steep. If you can give some clarity on that. And what is the current status in July and August? How are things going on right now? And how do we expect to again get traction from the order book? Because our order book is increasing, but the revenue is not. And can you share the quantum of the bonus and hike given, and what is the attrition percentage? That's it. Thank you. If you can answer this.
Okay, as far as the attrition percentage is concerned, I think it is upwards of 30% annualized, and in fact in 1 month it was fairly close to 40%. However, thanks to the substantial increase that we have given, it is certainly somewhat under control. And we are keeping Parag has mentioned, we are keeping a close eye on how things are unfolding at the industry level, and we will be taking steps accordingly. So broadly, this is what we can say at this juncture. If there is anything else that you would like to understand, please let us know.
If you can give an idea that why there was such a steep decline, and how are we planning to recover from this, and how would again the orders would fall into the revenue?
Right. So as far as the steep decline is concerned, as we have mentioned earlier, the COVID second wave and the ransomware attack, these were the two main reasons, along with the attrition that I have talked about. And and as far as the order book is concerned, it is a combination of both immediate term, short term, and long term orders that are there, and that's how you notice an increase in order book. However, part of it may or may not be executable immediately. So that is the reason for while order book is higher, partially we may not be able to execute it. I hope that answers your question about steep decline and the order book increase.
That's it. Thanks a lot. I'll come back later and with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next we have Rahul Jain from Dolat Capital. Your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the opportunity. Vishnuji, from the ransomware side, could you little bit elaborate in terms of what was the precise impact? Is it some client side revenue recognition which could not happen for some period? Is it some revenue reversal, or it is loss of time which led to this impact from ransomware on revenues?
Essentially, it was loss of time for some of the customers. Thankfully, we were able to recover within days. For some other customers, it took us a couple of weeks. So it was essentially a loss of time where some of our teams could not work, and that is what has resulted into drop in the revenue because of ransomware. And of course, as we have mentioned earlier, other part of the of course we did recover, in fact, in timely manner from ransomware. The partner with whom who helped us out in this recovery, they have mentioned that this is one of the fastest recovery that they have seen. So clearly we have come out as I had mentioned, wiser and stronger. We need to be far more vigilant than we were, and that's what now we are very closely working on to make sure that we have learned from our from this incident.
Sure, sure. And of course, you said how you would recover over a period of time and difficult to gauge. I can understand that part. But just simply from a pure supply side factor and ransomware side factor, which is more like a one-time kind of an impact. So is it fair to assume from a July-August run rate basis, we are at least back to our let's say Q4 kind of a run rate, or it is too early to even conclude that?
Yeah, it is just too early to conclude even that because we are while we have started functioning fully by end June or first week of July, the impact that is the suspension of work by whatever days, weeks that happened, that we are still working out how it is going to impact the revenue for this quarter as well as the next few quarters.
Right, right. And on the attrition side, as you said, it went alarming all the way to 40% monthly run rate on annualized basis. Is this new hike effective month of July? And if yes, then has this helped in some curtailment of the attrition in the July data so far?
Certainly, this hike is effective April 21. However, because of the issue that we were facing, the communication was done in the month of July, and yes, we do feel that the worst is behind us even on this front.
Okay, so you are essentially trying to say that although the salary was revised up from April, for first quarter the increments were rolled out, the arrears were rolled out in the month of July from a cash flow point of view?
It was not cash flow point of view. It was cash flow was not an issue. The entire process that
yeah, understand. So people who received this money for increased salary was paid eventually in July. So people didn't receive that increased salary in April, May, June as those months happened, because that communication itself happened in July, although it is effective from April.
You got it absolutely right.
Okay. So that's why even any benefit from an attrition point of view could have, the decision making could have helped only in July, not earlier, right? Because they were not aware of this hike.
You got it absolutely right. Yeah.
Right. So that way, again, moving back to my original question, which is like, has July attrition cooled off to a normalized level, or the market is still hot and that's why it will take some more time for us to normalize?
Okay. Let me put it this way: market continues to be hot. We are keeping a very, very, very close eye on how things are unfolding. As of now, we feel the worst period is behind us. But we will let you know, when we connect in the month of October or early November, whenever the next board after our board meeting.
Right. And sorry if I can squeeze one more. Just last question. Have we done any kind of analysis in terms of who we are losing this talent to? Is it going to startup ecosystem or more going toward IT services, which is again hiring big time? Given the nature of the talent we may have, could be a little more specialized on the product side. So where we are losing these people, which kind of company we are losing to these people?
Prema, would you like to take this?
Sure, sir. Thank you. So there are very kind of companies. There is no specific, place that I can name. There are multiple of them. There are mid-size and also the big five that people are going to. And of course, the compensation is the major factor for which people end up leaving. And it's startups as well as the big five that people are going to.
Sure. Thank you. That's it from my side.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Next we have Himanshu from PGIM. Your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Good afternoon. I have 2-3 very basic questions related to the business. See, in one of the calls we stated that existing product has huge opportunity, and we have only done a very small portion of it. Okay. And the steps we said that we need to expand geographically, and in few markets we have 1 or 2 customers only, hence we need to gain market share in those markets. Okay. Generally in this business, what leads the customer to change his vendor or add a new service line? Okay. What is your strategy besides the good product to gain market share in these geographies? And what progress have you made in this in last 1 year? Because I think this was stated in Q1 FY21. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think right through the year that has gone by, we have been reaching out to our prospective customers through various web conferences, and thanks to that, there is adequate amount of inflow of inquiries for our solution. And what is happening is, while the inflow is adequate, inflow of inquiries is adequate, the decision making cycle is slightly longer. We do have some orders coming in, but we don't see them at the pace that we would like to. But at the same time, we are confident that as things start settling, we would be able to see upsurge in the orders coming our way.
No, see, my question was, so this is what you are saying, but my question was on our strategy, okay, to gain market share, and what leads the customer to change his vendor, or let's say add a new product to his system. Okay, so in many of the markets where you stated that we have only 1 or 2 customers, hence the focus has to be to gain market share in those geographies. So just on those aspects, if you can elaborate, I wanted to. My question is to understand the business. Okay? Not
yeah, sure. Okay. The way I would answer this part of the question is, with our implementations, wherever whichever markets we are demonstrating the value that is getting delivered to the prospective customers from the existing customers that we have in those geographies, and then we encourage them to look at a line of business getting starting to use our solution. And once that they are able to see, once that goes live, they are able to see the value, and over a period, then we visualize that other lines of businesses they would be able to see the value in our product. For example, buy now pay later is a functionality or is a need that is rising in a substantial way, and there are adequate number of queries on that part of the functionality, which we are talking to at least maybe 5 to 10 customers. Now, once these customers who want to start offering buy now pay later functionality product to their prospective customers, once they see how easily they can offer that to their customers, we are confident that they would use our products for their automobile offering, their mortgage offering, and so on. That's the way we are approaching this situation. Himanshu, I hope I have answered your question now.
Yeah. Can I ask two more questions? Just one.
Yeah, please.
We had said. Huh? Yeah. Okay.
Please do go ahead.
Yeah, we had said that we have three modes of business growth. Okay. One is product, the second was upgrading, and third was service business from Chennai and Singapore, where we do customized products. Okay, that's service business. How is this business of services doing in terms of growth? Because what we understand with digitization and so many things improving, and we being more specialized, are we getting higher traction, or do you think that business can also have a higher growth, or what are you seeing ahead in that business?
I would request my colleague Anurag Mantri, who looks after this business as well, apart from his CFO hat, to answer this question.
Hi, this is Anurag. Thanks for your question, and you are absolutely right that in these days, services dimension is actually is gaining a lot of traction, and we are also leveraging on the same. We are expanding our digital services offerings in services business, and in recent times we have received some very good traction from Southeast Asia market as well as Middle East, and we are expecting some significant increase in services business around the digital transformation offerings.
Okay. And one more thing, because of
your question.
Okay, yeah. But are the margins also improving in such businesses where the customized solutions are there, and are we able to differentiate we being because it's in financial domain?
Definitely, yes. So the way I would like to answer is that the margins are not that great in the traditional IT services business. In last 2 years, we have predominantly moved towards the transformative services business, and there we are taking a unique blend of our functional and domain knowledge as well as technical expertise to our customers, and that is helping us to demand a premium or higher margins.
Okay. And my last question, as investors are our understanding in the product businesses, it's a steady business in cash flow terms. Our revenue line will be more volatile, but once customer is logged in, it will remain with the company for a long period of time. And incremental costs are low, okay, for getting or selling the product, okay. And such companies will pay good dividend, okay. So we see Oracle or let's say Acelia Kale and all those companies where dividend would be more than 50-60%, okay, of the profit. Why and what risks does the board see and we as investors are not able to see? Can you elaborate on because I think there is a lot of questions historically has been asked, and but as investors we come with such a mindset because we look at other product companies in such domains behaving in this way, and this company behaves in a different way. So I think the difference is the way you see risk, and we are not able to comprehend. So can you elaborate on 3-4 minutes on the risk which board and management is able to see and we investors are not able to see in the business?
Okay, let me attempt answering it this way that we are scheduled to have a board meeting essentially on this single topic alone in near future. And when we connect next quarter, we'll be able to give you a comprehensive perspective on how board is looking at this, as you have very correctly said, the longest standing question.
One thing, just elaborating or just, so do you think the risk we are seeing, or do you think we have as investors we have some decent understanding, but it is just a conservativeness of management, the risks are able to understand the investors? or do you think the gap is between our understanding of risk itself? So the way management and board thinks and we investor think is very different.
Fair enough, and that's what I would just like to repeat, that board is meeting essentially to discuss these issues in near future, and then when we connect next quarter to update you about the current quarter in the month of October or early November, that is the time we'll bring you up the curve.
Okay, thank you. I respect your answers, and I really appreciate the way you conduct the con call. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for appreciation.
Next we have Deepan Shankar from Trustline Chambers. Your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the opportunity. And firstly, would like to understand outlook on our business, specifically on export side. So how is the outlook looking on the current business environment?
Our outlook as far as our business is concerned continues to be good. We as we have mentioned in last call also and earlier today also, we continue to get good queries and very serious queries, both on our products and services part of the business. We obviously are facing the challenges that the industry is facing in terms of attrition, etc., for which we are taking necessary steps, and we see a much stronger company coming out of this difficult period. That's the way I would like to the outlook of our business.
Okay, sir. And the employee cost, this current quarter run rate, will it continue in futures also, or are we expecting some more increase in this cost?
That's an excellent question, Mr. Vipin Shankar. I think we are keeping a very, very, very close eye on the developments in the marketplace. You are tracking the industry, so you know that 300,000 people companies are planning to hire 100,000 people, and so on and so forth. As my colleague Parag mentioned, it is really a bloodbath. So it is difficult for us to say anything about where the costs are going to be, what the ratios are going to be. All I can say is we're keeping an extremely close eye, and we would respond to the developments in the marketplace appropriately, and we are absolutely confident that we'll come out stronger.
Okay, that's good to hear. And lastly, during our AGM discussion, we also discussed about getting more input on our disclosures on cloud business. So can we expect any action front in the coming quarters in getting more disclosures?
Yes, certainly. You can expect. You can certainly expect more disclosures on cloud business.
Okay, sure, sir. Thanks a lot and all the best.
Thank you. Thank you for your continued interest.
Before taking next question, I'll announce participants, if you still have any questions, you may please press 0 and then 1. Next we have Vaibhav from HNI Investment. Your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Hi sir, thanks for providing the opportunity. So I have one observation or comments to offer, and then 2 questions probably. So in terms of upcoming board meeting before next quarterly result is for the deciding on cash distribution or capital allocation whatever topic you said. So we would prefer that whatever you decide in terms of whether it's buyback, whether it's additional payout or whatever it is, it has to be a long-term policy. It should not be that one reasonable size dividend is declared and then again our payout is reduced again to 20-30% or so. I think given the nature of the business and cash generation, as one of my earlier participants said, the dividend payout has to be higher on a constant basis. Given the fact that we have already accumulated, 734 crore of cash, and I can't imagine where we are going to deploy that. So I would request management and board to think on that front rather than just giving one time thing to satisfy investor. It has to be a continuous capital allocation policy rather than just one time policy. So that's an observation. Now on the question front, so when you have this revenue decline, obviously some of the installations at client and has been delayed, or because we are not able to deploy, it means that we are not able to work, and if we are not able to work, obviously clients have also suffered to some extent. So are there any penalties or any revision in contracts that can happen due to this, or you are not foreseeing this as of now?
Thank you for the comment as well as the question. Let me just assure you that your preference of having a long-term policy rather than one time would certainly be communicated to the board. And now coming to revenue decline, thankfully, I would like to say, because of the value that this company continues to deliver to all our customers, all our customers have been understanding enough, appreciative enough of whatever
Hello. Hello.
No reversals or no penalties whatsoever. And I was requesting my colleague Parag Bhise, our CEO, to give you maybe more deeper update on this.
Yeah. Thank you for that question, and thank you, Vishnu. So, no, we have, of course, there has been a temporary impact that customers have faced. No doubt about it. But then, hello, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, it's not. Sorry, I think it's just some voices are mixing up. Probably, I think there's some problem in Vishnu's line, if I'm not wrong.
So, this Parag here. I'll add to what Vishnu said, that while yes, because of the challenges we faced, there was a temporary impact on some deliverables of customers. But thankfully, all our relationships with customers are very long, and they are understanding it. We were, of course, keeping them very regularly updated on how things are moving. So there have been certainly no penalties or anything of that sort. And as we bounce back, we expect that we'll do normal business with them. But to answer specifically, there have been no penalties.
Okay. And second question is around the employee costs. Obviously, the numbers are in front of us. But maybe I missed the number of employees count if you provided earlier. If you can provide the number of employees at the end of June and at the end of March and June 2020, all the three numbers, that would be really helpful.
Tapan, you might be able to mention all the three numbers.
Yeah.
Sure, sir. So we are having 1,732 headcount as of 30th June 2021, and 1,932 headcount was at 31st March 2021, and 2,117 as was 30th June 2020.
Okay. Okay, got it. I think that's it from my side. I will come back in the question queue. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Next, we have Parag from Covalent Capital. Your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're audible.
All right. Thank you. Question for Parag Bhise. So, I understand that attrition is high in the industry and our costs will go up. What are we doing long term in terms of making attrition manageable? So are we looking at increasing the ESOP and other long-term compensation in line with what typical product companies like Oracle or Cisco do? And how would that impact the way ESOPs are structured at Nucleus?
You're talking about long term, what we are looking at, how to tackle this attrition or retention. So one of the long-term strategies, and we believe that is what is going to work, is that we are going in big time in terms of recruitment of freshers. So you might have come across our press releases in the media about hiring of 500 professionals in this year, essentially freshers. That's what we believe will help us long term. Whatever we have done in terms of increments, we have done, as Vishnu has been saying repeatedly, we are monitoring it very closely. So we'll respond as the market responds. We don't know yet. We think we've done significantly, but if that's not enough, we'll see what else needs to be done. But long-term strategy definitely is of hiring freshers and making them ready at the earliest possible. That's what we believe is going to help us.
And additionally, let me just add to what. Hello. Let me just add to what Parag just now mentioned. You wanted to understand also our perspective on ESOP. We are not exactly in favor of ESOP, but at the same time, we are looking at alternatives to ESOP, and we will talk about them in coming quarters.
Okay, so is there any specific reason why you would not favor of ESOP?
Sorry, repeat again.
Is there any specific reason why you do not favor ESOPs as a long-term compensation and retention tool?
Yeah, that's an outstanding question. Actually, we want to be, thanks for raising it. We want to be extra careful when it comes to maintaining the integrity of the system, and we do fear that with ESOPs the risk is relatively higher. So that is the reason we are avoiding ESOPs as a instrument for taking care of the long-term needs.
So do you see significant dilution happening? Yeah, no, so if you award ESOPs, if ESOPs are awarded...
No, it's not. It has nothing to do with dilution. It has, it is more, more to do with how it is structured and how it can be. There is a risk of being played around with. we'll talk about this maybe in next time when we are ready with our comprehensive thought.
All right. Thank you.
Next, we have Vivek Ganguly from Nine Rivers Capital. Your line is unmuted.
Thank you for the opportunity. I had one question. While we were talking about the impact of the ransomware, I got the impression that, and while we said that it is sorted, I got the impression that there is some lingering impact of the ransomware attack on the company in terms of, the ability to execute projects on an ongoing basis. And that's why you said, we'll see over the next couple of quarters how we recover from that. Please, can you clarify on that? What is their impact still an ongoing thing, or has it been totally sorted and we are out of that phase and all necessary actions have been taken post that?
Thanks for raising this very, very relevant question. We see there is no lingering impact of ransomware attack that happened in the month of last 2 days of May and the entire June. There is no lingering impact from that perspective, from execution of business perspective. However, when I said that it will take some time, there is clearly there were a few programs which got suspended for a couple of weeks. Maybe some would have got suspended for a slightly longer period, and ensuring that they are back on track can take some time. That is what I meant by it will be clear in a quarter or two.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. So my next question is, on the employee cost. So there was a overall over last quarter or last year, there was about a 20% hike that you'll have given. So has that been done uniformly, or a particular where you all want to, the people or the set of or a class of people you all want to retain, you all have given them disproportionate hikes and it is much lower in the other section? Is that how it has worked out? And going forward is, on a steady state basis, these pressures can still be there, but if the attrition and the external macro pressure were to kind of abate, would 92 odd crores be the steady state number to work with?
Yeah, that's right. That's a reasonable assumption to make. If things were to abate now, that's the number. That will be or a slightly higher number would be the steady state number to work with. Now, and having said that, your earlier part of the question, as you have yourself very correctly elaborated, the increments are obviously given depending upon the market reality. So and market reality is different for different set of skills and so on and so forth.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Next, we have Samarth Jain from DBS Capital. Your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, hi, this is Samarth Singh from TPF Capital. My question was, I read a recent article regarding the merger between Centrum Capital and BharatPe, and how Centrum Capital would be using sort of BharatPe's loan origination system. So my question to you is, do we see that as a risk to our business in the future, where NBFC is combined with fintech players who sort of have their own loan origination and servicing systems?
Let's look at this marketplace as it is unfolding. Clearly, you have fintechs who are wanting to offer their loan origination solutions to our set of customers. There are other players who want to offer similar functionality, and I think there is more than adequate competition that exists for the solutions that we provide. And now, having said that, the humongous amount of investments that we have been making and we continue to make, that gives our customers kind of confidence that all their needs would be fulfilled by us, and that is what gives us confidence to make the bold statements to all of you analysts and investors that yes, this is a long-term play which would continue to deliver value to all its stakeholders and of course customers being the number one of them. So that's the way I would like to answer your question. I hope you're comfortable with it.
Yeah, thank you for that. And just I guess one statement: we appreciate management not giving out ESOPs and rather taking the hit on the P&L. It gives a clearer picture of what the actual the real P&L is, and doesn't dilute shareholder equity. So we appreciate that, and hopefully in the board meeting to be held, as you mentioned soon, there is a talk about a buyback so that we can further reduce the shares outstanding.
Thanks a lot, Samar, for your appreciation.
That's it from me. Thank you.
So the last question of the day we have from Vaibhav from HNI Investment. Your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Thanks for providing the follow-up. So just slightly on a longer-term impact of this increase in employee costs, which is obviously driven by attrition. So this is a fairly recent phenomenon. This has happened just mostly in last 6 to 9 months, and this has hit the whole industry completely unguarded. I mean, nobody was actually predicting that this would actually happen. And given the kind of our business, which is product business, and we have generally long-term contracts with our customer for AMC as well, and for product maintenance, installation, everything. Do you think the profitability is actually has been impaired on a relatively medium or long-term basis because of this increase in cost, or do you have the relevant clauses with the?
Yes.
Sorry. Hello.
No, please go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. So the profitability has been impacted on a relatively medium and to long-term basis due to this, or do you have the relevant increment price contract with the customers?
That's a brilliant question, Vaibhav. Thank you so much. While we do have the adequate clauses in the contract, but even beyond the contract, this is the value delivery that we make to our customers, which gives us the confidence that even if it is not there in the contract, and if we go and talk to them and explain the logic to them about how they need to ensure that we remain profitable for their own benefit, for their own long-term benefit, we are confident that they will listen to us and will do the needful. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I think that's helpful, and I will also add to what earlier participants said in terms of ESOP. I think I completely agree with management on the integrity issues that are involved in ESOP, and it's very essential to have a good long-term culture. And ESOPs have a lot of these issues. So I commend the management for having this in mind while deciding on ESOPs. That's it from my side. Thank you.
We deeply appreciate your appreciation of some of these long-term decisions. They are difficult to make, but we see the value getting delivered to all our stakeholders over the coming decades thanks to these decisions. Thank you. Thank you so much.
With this, I would like to now hand over the floor back to Swati for final remarks. Over to you, Swati.
Thanks, Harpreet. So we would like to thank all the investors for joining us today for the earnings conference call. I would now pass it over to Vishnu sir for his closing comment. Over to you, sir.
Once again, this was another opportunity for us to connect with all of you, and we would like to thank all of you for your continued interest in Nucleus Software, and I take this opportunity to reiterate our commitment to build a long-term institution and make sure that we take care of the needs of all our stakeholders. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for addressing the session. Thank you for all the investors for joining the call. That does conclude our quarterly earnings conference call. You may all disconnect now. Thank you and have a pleasant evening.